Greetings, philosophers. Today, we're kicking off a thrilling journey into the mind of one of the greatest thinkers in literature, Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is the first part of a 10-part series exploring his philosophy, and we're starting with a theme that's at the heart of his work: the human condition and the wild, untamed power of existential freedom. So, let's get lost in some deep, soul-stirring ideas. Dostoevsky isn't just a novelist. He's a philosopher with a pen, a man who wrestled with the chaos of being human in a way that feels as fresh today as it did in 19th century Russia. His stories aren't about tidy answers. They're about the messy, beautiful, terrifying reality of what it means to be alive. And nowhere is this clearer than in his idea of existential freedom, the notion that we're free to choose who we are and what we do, but that freedom comes with a heavy price. To unpack this, we're going to focus on one of his most raw and rebellious works, Notes from Underground. Imagine for a minute a man sitting alone in a dingy basement, scribbling his thoughts, raging against the world. That's the underground man, the narrator of Notes. He's not a hero, not even likable, but he's one of the most honest characters you'll ever meet. He's bitter, spiteful, and trapped in his own head, but he's also fiercely alive, refusing to be boxed in by anyone or anything. Dostoevsky uses this guy to show us something profound. To be human is to be free, but freedom isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a burden, a battle, and sometimes a curse. So what's this freedom all about? For Dostoevsky, it's the ability to choose, to act, to define yourself, even when it makes no sense to anyone else. The underground man is obsessed with this. He's living in a time, much like ours, when people were getting excited about science, reason, and systems that promised to make life predictable. Think of it like the 19th century version of a life hack app. Follow these rules, and you'll be happy. But the underground man says, no way. He doesn't want to be a cog in a machine. He doesn't want his life reduced to a formula where 2 + 2 always equals 4. He wants to scream, maybe I want 2 + 2 to equal 5. It's irrational, sure, but it's his choice. This is where Dostoevsky gets radical. He's saying that what makes us human isn't our ability to follow rules or be logical. It's our ability to say, I am who I am and I'll choose what I want, even if it's messy or stupid. The underground man takes this to extremes. He picks fights, insults people, and sabotages his own life, all to prove he's not a puppet. He's not doing it because it's noble. He's doing it because he can, and that's the point. Freedom for Dostoevsky isn't about making the right choice. It's about having the power to choose at all. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. This freedom comes with a cost. The underground man's choices don't make him happy. They make him miserable. He's isolated, paranoid, and stuck in a cycle of self-loathing. Dostoevsky's showing us the dark side of freedom. When you're free to choose anything, you're also free to choose destruction. You can choose to hurt others, to hurt yourself, to reject love or to reject meaning. And the underground man does all of that. He's not a role model, he's a warning. Dostoevsky's saying, look, you've got this incredible gift of freedom, but it's not a toy. It's heavy. It can break you. This idea feels so relevant today. We live in a world that's all about choice. We've got a million options for what to watch, what to buy, who to be. Social media tells us we can reinvent ourselves every day. But how often do we stop and ask, are my choices making me freer, or are they trapping me? Are we choosing what we really want, or are we just following the algorithm's nudge? Dostoevsky would probably look at our world and say, you're all underground men, pretending you're free but stuck in your own basements. However, Dostoevsky wasn't just writing about one cranky guy in a basement. He was wrestling with a bigger question. What does it mean to be human in a world that's trying to turn us into predictable, rational machines? In his time, people were buzzing about ideas like utilitarianism, this philosophy that said, Humans should always act to maximize happiness, like we're walking calculators. Dostoevsky thought that was nonsense. He believed we're more than that. We're not just creatures of logic, we're creatures of passion, contradiction, and yes, sometimes chaos. That's what makes us alive. The underground man's rebellion isn't just against society. It's against any system that tries to strip away our individuality. He's like, I'd rather be miserable and free than happy and chained. And that's where Dostoevsky challenges us. He's asking, what are you willing to sacrifice for your freedom? For comfort? For security? For acceptance? It's a tough question because most of us want both. We want to be free, but we also want to feel safe. Dostoevsky says you can't always have it both ways. Dostoevsky is using this character to show us the extreme, to make us think about our own choices. Because here's the flip side. Freedom also means you can choose meaning, love, connection. The underground man doesn't see that, but Dostoevsky does. In his later works, like the brothers Karamazov, he'll introduce characters who use their freedom to build something beautiful, not just tear things down. We'll get to those in later episodes, but for now, Notes from Underground is laying the groundwork. Freedom is the starting point of the human condition, but where you go with it is up to you. Dostoevsky is asking questions we're still grappling with. Are we really free, or are we just following scripts, whether it's society, technology, or our own fears? What do we do with the freedom we have? Do we use it to create, to love, to grow? Or do we, like the underground man, get stuck in our own heads, choosing defiance just because we can? As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about a moment in your life when you felt truly free, when you made a choice that was yours, no one else's. Maybe it was scary, maybe it was exhilarating, maybe it was both. That's the human condition Dostoevsky's talking about, the power to choose and the weight that comes with it. Next time, we'll dive into another piece of his philosophy, the problem of evil and suffering. It's going to be intense, so don't miss it. Thanks for joining me today. Let's keep exploring the big questions together. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep choosing. See you soon.
Greetings, philosophers. We're back for the second part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, one of literature's greatest explorers of the soul. Today we're diving into a question that haunts his work and, let's be honest, haunts us all. The problem of evil and suffering. Why does a world that's supposed to make sense allow so much pain? Dostoevsky doesn't shy away from this, and he tackles it head-on in his masterpiece, The Brothers Karamazov. So settle in, and let's unpack this heavy but gripping topic together. Dostoevsky wasn't just telling stories, he was digging into the raw, jagged edges of existence. He lived through his own share of suffering, poverty, epilepsy, the loss of loved ones, even a mock execution and years in a Siberian prison camp. So when he writes about pain, it's not abstract. It's personal. And in The Brothers Karamazov, he gives us one of the most powerful confrontations with suffering of literature through a character named Ivan Karamazov. Ivan's not just asking why bad things happen, he's shaking his fist at the universe, demanding to know how a good world can let innocent people, especially children, suffer. Picture Ivan, this brilliant, brooding intellectual, sitting across from his younger brother Alyosha, a gentle, faith-filled monk. Ivan lays out his case like a lawyer in a cosmic courtroom. He tells stories of real, gut-wrenching suffering, people abused, tortured, killed. He's not making this up. Dostoevsky pulled these examples from newspapers of his time. Ivan's point is brutal. If the world is created by a loving God, how can this kind of evil exist? He says he'd rather return his ticket to such a universe than accept a system that allows this pain. It's not just an argument. It's a rebellion against the idea that everything happens for a reason. Now, this isn't just Ivan being dramatic. Dostoevsky's using him to voice a question we've all asked at some point. You see it on the news in your own life, or in the lives of people you love. Senseless suffering. A child gets sick. A disaster strikes. Someone you trust betrays you. And you wonder, why? What's the point? Dostoevsky doesn't give us a neat answer, but he makes us feel the weight of the question. He's saying, this is real. This is worth wrestling with. And through Ivan, he's daring us to face it without looking away. But Ivan doesn't stop with the problem of evil. He takes it further with one of the most famous passages in literature, the Grand Inquisitor. It's a story Ivan tells Alyosha, a kind of parable within the novel. Imagine Jesus returning to Earth during the Spanish Inquisition, only to be arrested by the Church. The Grand Inquisitor, this old cynical figure, confronts Jesus and says, "You got it wrong. You gave people freedom, but they can't handle it. They don't want to choose their own path. They want bread, security, someone to tell them what to do." The Inquisitor argues that suffering comes from freedom because people misuse it or can't bear its weight. His solution: take away their freedom, give them comfort, control, certainty, make them happy slaves. This is where Dostoevsky's genius shines. He's not just talking about evil. He's asking what we're willing to sacrifice to avoid it. The Grand Inquisitor thinks suffering can be eliminated by controlling people, turning them into obedient cogs in a machine. It's a chilling idea, and it's not hard to see echoes of it today. Think about it. How often do we trade our freedom for convenience? We hand over our choices to algorithms, governments, or trends, hoping it'll make life easier, less painful. Dostoevsky's warning us that this comes at a cost. If you give up your freedom to avoid suffering, you might lose what makes you human. But here's the twist. Dostoevsky doesn't let Ivan's rebellion or the Inquisitor's cynicism have the last word. Through Alyosha, the quiet, loving brother, he offers a different perspective. Alyosha doesn't argue with Ivan's logic. He listens, he feels the pain, and he responds with compassion. There's a moment where Ivan finishes his tirade, and Alyosha just kisses him on the shoulder. It's simple, but it's profound. Dostoevsky's saying that the answer to suffering isn't a theory. It's love, action, connection. Alyosha doesn't solve the problem of evil, but he lives in a way that fights it, by caring for others, by being present. This ties to another character in the novel, Father Zosima, a monk who's like Alyosha's mentor. Zosima teaches that suffering isn't just a problem to solve. It's part of being human. He says we're all connected, all responsible for each other's sins and pain. It's a radical idea. Your suffering isn't just yours, and neither is your guilt. We're in this together. Zosima's not saying suffering is good. He's saying it can transform us, make us more compassionate, more aware of others. Dostoevsky, who suffered so much himself, seems to believe this. His own life in prison didn't break him. It deepened his empathy, his sense of humanity's shared struggle. We all face suffering. Maybe not as dramatic as Ivan's examples, but real nonetheless. A broken relationship, a lost job, a health scare, or just the quiet ache of feeling alone. Dostoevsky's asking us, how do you respond? Do you, like Ivan, demand answers and reject the world when they don't come? Do you, like the Grand Inquisitor, try to control everything to avoid pain? Or do you, like Alyosha, keep showing up, keep loving, even when it hurts? There's no perfect fix for suffering, but Dostoevsky suggests that the way we carry it matters. This idea feels so alive today. We're bombarded with images of pain, wars, crises, and personal struggles. It's easy to feel like Ivan, overwhelmed, ready to give up, or like the Inquisitor craving someone to just fix it all. But Dostoevsky challenges us to be like Alyosha, not with grand gestures, but with small, stubborn acts of kindness. It's not about erasing suffering. It's about refusing to let it define us. As we close, I want you to think about a time you faced suffering, yours or someone else's. Did it make you harder, or did it open your heart? Dostoevsky would say that's the real question. Not why suffering exists, but what you do with it. Next time, we'll explore another piece of his philosophy, the clash between faith and nihilism. It's a battle that's still raging, so you won't want to miss it. Thanks for tuning in today. Let's keep grappling with the big questions together. Until next time, keep thinking, keep feeling, and keep showing up. See you soon. Greetings, philosophers. We're back for the third part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who doesn't just tell stories, but cracks open the human soul. Today we're tackling a theme that runs like a current through his work, the clash between faith and nihilism. It's a battle between finding meaning in a universe that seems to care and one that feels like a cold, empty void. We'll focus on two of his heaviest hitters, the brothers Karamazov and Demons, to explore how Dostoevsky wrestles with this. So grab a cozy spot and let's dive into this profound tug-of-war. Dostoevsky lived in a time when big ideas were shaking the world. Science was booming, old traditions were crumbling, and people were starting to wonder, do we need God to make sense of life? This wasn't just a Russian thing. It's a question we're still asking today. When you scroll your news feed and see chaos, from wars to tweets full of despair, it's easy to feel like nothing matters. That's nihilism. The idea that life has no inherent meaning, no purpose, no anchor. Dostoevsky saw this coming, and he was terrified of it. Not because he was some preachy moralist, but because he knew how seductive and destructive that emptiness could be. Let's start with the brothers Karamazov, where this clash plays out like a family drama with cosmic stakes. You've got Ivan Karamazov, the brainy skeptic we met last episode, who's basically the poster child for nihilism. He looks at the world full of suffering, injustice, and cruelty, and says, if this is all there is, I'm out. He doesn't just doubt God, he doubts meaning itself. There's this chilling moment where he says that without God, everything is permitted. Think about that. If there's no higher purpose, no moral compass, what stops us from doing whatever we want, no matter how dark? Ivan's not celebrating this, he's horrified by it. His mind's trapped in a loop, brilliant but lost, because he can't find anything solid to hold on to. Now contrast that with Alyosha, his younger brother, the monk in training who's all heart. Alyosha's not naive. He sees the same ugly world Ivan does, but he chooses faith. Not a blind, follow-the-rules kind of faith, but something alive, rooted in love and action. There's a scene where Alyosha listens to Ivan's despair, and instead of arguing, he just stays present, offering quiet compassion. Dostoevsky's saying faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about choosing to believe in something bigger, even when the world screams that it's pointless. Alyosha's faith is practical. He helps people, comforts them, lives for them. It's not a theory. It's a way of being. Then there's Father Zosima, Alyosha's mentor, who takes this further. Zosima's faith is almost mystical. He sees the world as interconnected, alive with divine possibility. He talks about loving all creation, from the birds to the stars, and believing that every act of kindness ripples outward. It's beautiful, but it's not easy. Zosima's faith demands courage, because it means facing a world full of pain and still saying, this is worth it. Dostoevsky, who was a Christian himself, isn't pushing dogma here. He's showing faith as a choice, a leap you make when logic alone isn't enough. Now let's shift to Demons, a darker, more chaotic novel where nihilism isn't just a personal crisis, it's a social disaster. The story's set in a Russian town where a group of radicals, led by figures like Stavrogin and Pyotr Verkhovensky, embrace nihilism as a kind of twisted gospel. They reject God, morality, tradition, everything, believing it'll free them to remake the world. But Dostoevsky shows where this leads: violence, betrayal, murder. Stavrogin, this charismatic but hollow figure, is like a walking void. He's brilliant, magnetic, but he believes in nothing, and it destroys him and everyone around him. Pyotr, meanwhile, uses nihilism to justify power and chaos, manipulating others into atrocities. Dostoevsky's message is stark. Nihilism doesn't just empty your soul, it can burn the world down. What's wild is how prescient this feels. Today we see nihilism everywhere, not always as dramatic as in Demons, but in the cynicism that creeps into our lives. Think about the memes that joke about life being meaningless, or the way we sometimes shrug off big problems because nothing matters anyway. Dostoevsky would recognize that instantly. He'd warn us that nihilism is a trap. It feels liberating at first, like you're free from all the rules, but it leaves you with nothing to stand on. No wonder people get lost in it. But Dostoevsky doesn't just scare us with the dangers of nihilism. He offers a way out. Back in The Brothers Karamazov, Alyosha and Zosima show that faith can be an antidote, not because it's a fairy tale, but because it's a choice to create meaning. Faith, for Dostoevsky, isn't about ignoring the void. It's about staring into it and saying, I'm going to build something anyway. It's not always religious faith either. It's about believing in love, connection, or even just the possibility of good, despite everything. Dostoevsky himself found this kind of faith after years of suffering in prison, where he saw humanity at its worst, but also its best. People sharing their last crust of bread, finding hope in despair. This clash between faith and nihilism hits home because we all face it. Maybe you've had a moment where life felt pointless, like nothing you do matters. Or maybe you felt a spark of something bigger, a connection, a purpose that pulled you through. Dostoevsky's saying that's the human struggle. We're caught between the void and the light, and we get to choose where we lean. Nihilism's easy. It's just letting go, drifting. Faith is harder. It's an act of defiance, a refusal to give up, and he shows both sides so vividly, you can't help but feel the stakes. Let's make it real for a second. Think about your own life. When have you felt that pull toward nothingness, that why bother moment, and what brought you back? Was it a person, a belief, a small act of kindness? Dostoevsky would say that's where the real fight happens. Not in big philosophical debates, but in the quiet choices you make every day. Do you choose to care, to connect, to keep going? That's faith in all its messy human glory. As we wrap up, Dostoevsky leaves us with a challenge, to face the void and choose meaning anyway. It's not about pretending the world's perfect, it's about building something worth living for, even when it's hard. Next time, we'll dive into another piece of his philosophy, the psychology of guilt and redemption, where he shows how our worst mistakes can lead to our greatest growth. It's going to be a wild ride. So stick with us. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, keep questioning, keep choosing, and keep believing in something. See you soon.
Welcome, philosophers. We're back for the fourth part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who dives into the human heart like no one else. Today, we're exploring the psychology of guilt and redemption, a theme that pulses through his gripping novel, Crime and Punishment. This is about what happens when we cross a moral line and how we find our way back, or don't. So grab a comfy seat and let's get into the messy, human struggle of guilt and the hope of redemption. Dostoevsky doesn't just write stories, he holds a mirror up to our deepest fears and desires. In Crime and Punishment, he gives us Rodion Raskolnikov, a young, broke student in St. Petersburg who's drowning in his own thoughts. Raskolnikov's not just a character, he's a walking question mark about morality, guilt, and what it takes to be human again after you've done something terrible. The story starts with a crime. Raskolnikov murders an old pawnbroker and her sister, convincing himself it's justified. He thinks he's above ordinary morality, like a superhuman who can break rules for a greater good. Sounds cold, right? But Dostoevsky makes us feel Raskolnikov's inner chaos, and that's where the real story begins. Not with the crime, but with what comes after. Guilt hits Raskolnikov like a tidal wave. He doesn't just feel bad, he's tormented, unravelling. He's feverish, paranoid, snapping at friends, wandering the streets like a ghost. Dostoevsky's showing us something profound here. Guilt isn't just a feeling, it's a signal, a scream from the soul that says, "You've betrayed yourself." Raskolnikov thought he could outsmart morality, but his conscience won't let him go. It's like his own mind turns against him, proving he's not the cold, calculating superhuman he wanted to be. He's human, painfully so, and Dostoevsky thinks that's true for all of us. Guilt is our moral compass, the thing that reminds us we're connected to others, whether we like it or not. This hits home because we've all felt guilt, haven't we? Maybe not for something as extreme as murder, but for hurting someone, breaking a promise, or even just ignoring that little voice that says, "You know better." Dostoevsky's genius is in showing how guilt isn't just punishment. It's a kind of invitation. It's the soul saying, "You messed up, but you can still come back." That's where redemption comes in. And for Raskolnikov, it's a long, bumpy road. Enter Sonia, a young woman forced into prostitution to support her family. She's not a saint in a halo. She's flawed, desperate, but full of compassion. When Raskolnikov confesses his crime to her, she doesn't judge him. Instead, she urges him to face his guilt, to confess, to accept suffering as a path to redemption. There's this powerful moment where she gives him a cross, a symbol of shared suffering and hope. Sonia's not preaching. She's living it, showing Raskolnikov that redemption isn't about erasing the past, but about owning it. Dostoevsky's saying that guilt can crush you, but it can also crack you open, letting in light if you let it. What's so gripping about this is how real it feels. Think about a time you screwed up. Maybe you said something cruel or let someone down. Guilt can feel like a weight you can't shake, but it's also a chance to grow. Dostoevsky believes redemption isn't a quick fix, it's a process. In the novel's final pages, he starts to open up to Sonia's love, to see a future beyond his shame. It's not a fairy tale ending, it's raw, tentative, human. Dostoevsky's saying redemption isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest, about choosing to reconnect with others. This idea of guilt as a path to redemption is radical, especially today. We live in a world that's quick to cancel, to judge, to move on. Guilt can feel like a life sentence, not a stepping stone. But Dostoevsky flips that. He says guilt is universal. It's what makes us human, not what makes us monsters. And redemption isn't something you earn by being good enough. It's something you choose by facing yourself. Raskolnikov's journey shows that even the worst of us can find a way back, not through grand gestures, but through humble, messy steps. admitting you're wrong, asking for forgiveness, or just letting someone in. Dostoevsky's own life backs this up. He faced his own darkness, gambling addiction, political exile, personal loss, and came out believing that suffering and guilt could forge a deeper humanity. He wasn't a saint either. He was flawed, like Raskolnikov, like us. That's why his philosophy resonates. He's not lecturing from a pedestal. He's in the trenches with us, saying, yeah, we mess up, but we can keep going. This theme also ties to our world today. We're surrounded by stories of people falling, politicians, celebrities, even friends who get defined by their worst moments. Dostoevsky challenges us to see beyond that, to believe in second chances, not just for others, but for ourselves. His philosophy isn't about excusing harm. It's about believing that harm doesn't have to be the end of the story. As we close, I want to leave you with this. Guilt is heavy, but it's also a gift. It's your heart telling you there's a way back, a way to be more human. Dostoevsky shows us that redemption is possible, but it's not cheap. It takes courage, honesty, and connection. Next time, we'll explore another layer of his philosophy, the duality of human nature, the way we're all torn between light and dark. It's going to be a wild ride, so don't miss it. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and keep believing in the possibility of redemption. See you soon. Greetings, philosophers. We're back for the 5th part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who peels back the layers of what it means to be human. Today, we're exploring the duality of human nature, the way we're all a mix of light and shadow, capable of incredible good and devastating darkness. We'll focus on his novel, The Idiot, where this tension plays out in vivid, heartbreaking colour. So, let's wrestle with the contradictions that define us. Dostoevsky doesn't just write characters, he creates mirrors. His people aren't flat heroes or villains, they're messy, complex like us. He believed that to be human is to be split, pulled between noble impulses and destructive urges, between love and hate, reason and chaos. This isn't just a literary trick, it's his philosophy of the human condition. We're not one thing, we're many, and that's both our strength and our struggle. In The Idiot, Dostoevsky gives us a story that's practically a laboratory for this idea, with characters who embody the extremes of human nature and the collisions between them. At the centre is Prince Mishkin, a man so pure he's almost too good for this world. He's kind, empathetic, sees beauty in everyone, a Christ-like figure, but without the preaching. Mishkin's the kind of person who'd stop to help a stranger and mean it. Dostoevsky calls him the idiot because, in a cynical world, his goodness looks naive, out of place. But here's the thing. Mishkin's not perfect. His innocence makes him clumsy, socially awkward, and sometimes blind to the chaos around him. He wants to save everyone, but he can't always save himself. Dostoevsky's showing us that even the best parts of us, our compassion, our idealism, can trip us up. Then there's Rogojin, Mishkin's opposite, a man driven by raw, consuming passion. Rogojin's obsessed with Nastasia, a beautiful, troubled woman they both love. His love isn't gentle, it's fierce, possessive, almost violent. Where Mishkin sees Nastasia's soul, Rogojin's caught in her allure, and it leads him to dark, destructive places. But Dostoevsky doesn't make Rogojin a cartoon villain. He's human too. His passion is real, even if it's warped. There's a scene where Mishkin and Rogojin talk late into the night, almost like brothers, and you see they're not so different. Both are driven by love, but it takes them in opposite directions. Nastasia herself is another study in duality. She's magnetic, intelligent, but also deeply wounded, torn between self-destruction and a longing for redemption. She bounces between Mishkin's selfless love and Rogojin's dangerous obsession, unable to fully choose either. Her struggle feels so real. Haven't we all been caught between wanting to be better and falling back into old, harmful patterns? Dostoevsky uses her to show how our inner conflicts can pull us apart, especially when we don't know which side of ourselves to trust. What's so powerful about The Idiot is how these characters clash. Mishkin's goodness doesn't save the day. It stirs up trouble. His kindness makes Nastasia confront her shame, which she can't handle. Rogojin's passion spirals into tragedy, partly because Mishkin's presence pushes him to extremes. Dostoevsky's saying that our dual natures don't just live inside us, they ripple out, sparking conflict with others. The world of The Idiot is a mess of good intentions and bad outcomes, love and betrayal, hope and despair. Sound familiar? It's like scrolling through life today, where every choice seems to carry both light and shadow. This idea of duality hits home because we all feel it. You've probably had moments where you wanted to do the right thing but ended up hurting someone, or times when your best qualities, say being generous, got tangled up with your flaws, like being too trusting. I bet you can think of a time you were both proud and ashamed of yourself in the same breath. Dostoevsky gets that. He's saying we're all Mishkins and Rogojins, saints and sinners, often in the same moment. The question isn't how to be one or the other, it's how to live with both. Dostoevsky's own life was a testament to this. He was a man of deep faith, but also battled gambling, debt, and doubt. He knew what it was to be torn, to want to be better but keep stumbling. That's why his philosophy feels so alive. He's not theorizing from a distance. He's lived the push and pull. In The Idiot, he doesn't give us a tidy answer about how to balance our dual natures. Instead, he shows the tragedy of what happens when we lean too far one way, too naive like Mishkin, too reckless like Rogojin. The goal, he seems to say, is to embrace the tension, to accept that being human means carrying both sides. As we wrap up, Dostoevsky leaves us with a challenge. Don't run from your contradictions. Live with them. Embrace the mess of being human, the way your best and worst sides dance together. It's not about picking a side, but about finding balance, or at least surviving the tug of war. Next time, we'll dive into another piece of his philosophy, the role of suffering in spiritual growth, where he shows how pain can shape us into something deeper. It's going to be intense, so stick around. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, keep wrestling with the contradictions that make you, you. See you soon.
Welcome, philosophers. We're back for the 6th part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who doesn't just tell stories but unearths the raw truth of the human soul. Today we're tackling a theme that's central to his thought, the role of suffering in spiritual growth. This idea comes alive in his masterpiece, The Brothers Karamazov, where suffering isn't just pain, it's a path to something deeper. So grab a cozy spot and let's explore this tough but transformative topic. Dostoevsky knew suffering inside out. He endured prison, exile, poverty, illness, and the loss of loved ones. So when he writes about pain, it's not theoretical, it's lived. He believed suffering wasn't just something to survive. It could be a crucible, a fire that burns away illusions and reveals who we really are. In The Brothers Karamazov, he explores this through characters who face pain in different ways, but especially through Father Zosima, a monk whose wisdom feels like a warm light in a dark world. Dostoevsky's not saying suffering is good. He's saying it can lead to growth if we let it. Let's start with Zosima, a figure who's like the heart of the novel. He's old, frail, but radiant with compassion. He teaches that suffering is universal. Nobody escapes it. But it's also a teacher, There's a moment where he tells a grieving woman that her pain over losing her child can open her heart to others. He's not dismissing her grief. He's saying it can connect her to humanity, make her more loving, more alive. Zosima believes suffering strips away our pride, our self-sufficiency, forcing us to see we're all in this together. It's a radical idea. Pain isn't just a curse. It can be a bridge to something bigger. This comes through in Zosima's own story. Before he was a monk, he was a young officer, full of ego and ambition. A personal crisis, a moment of deep shame and suffering, changed him. He realized his arrogance had hurt others, and that pain pushed him to seek forgiveness and a new way of life. Dostoevsky's showing us that suffering can be a turning point. It's not about enjoying pain, but about what it reveals, our flaws, our need for others, our capacity to grow. Zosima emerges from suffering not bitter but humble, not broken but whole. Contrast this with Ivan Karamazov, who we've met before. Even suffering, his anguish over the world's cruelty, drives him inward, toward despair. He can't find meaning in pain, so he rejects the whole idea of a meaningful universe. Dostoevsky uses Ivan to show what happens when we fight suffering instead of learning from it. Ivan's brilliant, but his refusal to accept pain as part of life leaves him isolated, trapped in his own mind. It's a warning. Suffering can destroy us if we let it define us. Then there's Alyosha, the young monk in training who lives out Zosima's teachings. Alyosha faces his own pain, family drama, loss, doubt, but he doesn't let it harden him. Instead, he channels it into love and action, helping others, from schoolboys to grieving families. There's a beautiful scene where Alyosha comforts a group of boys after a friend's death, turning their pain into a shared moment of hope. Dostoevsky's saying that suffering, when faced with courage, can make us more compassionate, more connected. It's not about fixing pain, but about letting it shape us into better people. This idea feels so alive because we all know suffering. Maybe it's a big loss, like a loved one or a dream that fell apart. Maybe it's smaller, like the daily grind of stress or feeling alone. Dostoevsky would say those moments aren't just bad luck. They're part of being human, and they can do more than hurt. They can teach. Think about it. Haven't some of your toughest times made you kinder, wiser, or more aware of others' struggles? That's what Dostoevsky's getting at. Suffering breaks us open, and what we do with that brokenness matters. Dostoevsky's own life proves this. In a Siberian prison surrounded by criminals and despair, he didn't just survive, he found meaning. He saw humanity in the prisoners, their stories, their shared pain. It shaped his belief that suffering can forge empathy, humility, even joy, if we embrace it as part of the human story. He's not romanticizing pain. His life was too hard for that. But he's saying it's not the end. It's a doorway, if we're brave enough to walk through. This resonates today, doesn't it? We live in a world that's obsessed with avoiding pain. It's all about quick fixes, distractions, or pretending everything's fine. But suffering finds us anyway. A breakup, a failure, a moment of feeling lost. It's universal. Dostoevsky challenges us to stop running from it. Instead of numbing out or getting bitter, what if we let pain teach us? What if it makes us see the world and each other a little more clearly? Think about a time you suffered, maybe a loss, a mistake, or just a rough patch. Did it change you? Maybe it made you softer, more patient, or maybe it showed you strength you didn't know you had. Dostoevsky would say that's the point. Suffering isn't just something to endure, it's something to learn from. It's not about being a martyr, but about letting pain shape you into someone who loves more, gives more, lives more. This idea also speaks to how we treat others. We're quick to judge people in pain. Think of someone struggling, lashing out, or falling apart. Dostoevsky would urge us to see their suffering as human, not weak. Like Zosima, we can meet pain with compassion, not judgment. That's spiritual growth, not just for them, but for us. It's about building a world where pain doesn't divide us, but binds us. As we wrap up, Dostoevsky leaves us with a challenge. Don't fear suffering. Learn from it. Let it humble you, connect you, make you more human. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Next time, we'll dive into another piece of his philosophy, his critique of rationalism and materialism, where he takes on the idea that life can be reduced to a formula. It's going to be a fiery one, so don't miss it. Welcome, philosophers. We're back for the 7th part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who doesn't just tell stories, but wrestles with what it means to be human. Today we're diving into his fierce critique of rationalism and materialism, his argument that life can't be reduced to formulas or things you can buy. We'll focus on notes from Underground and Demons, where he takes aim at the idea that reason or stuff can solve the human soul's deepest needs. So grab a cozy spot and let's get into this fiery, thought-provoking topic. Dostoevsky lived in a world buzzing with new ideas. The 19th century was all about science, progress, and systems promising to make life better. Sound familiar? People thought reason could crack every problem, like a math equation. Utilitarianism was big, saying we should all just maximize happiness, like we're walking calculators. Others believed material wealth, more money, more stuff, would fix everything. Dostoevsky wasn't buying it. He thought these ideas stripped away what makes us human, our messy, irrational, soulful nature. He saw them as dangerous, not because they were totally wrong, but because they tried to shrink life into something too small. Let's start with Notes from Underground, where Dostoevsky throws a literary grenade at rationalism. The narrator, the underground man, it's a bitter, isolated guy who's basically allergic to the idea that life can be boiled down to logic. He's living in a time when people are obsessed with systems, like building a society where everyone's happy because they follow the right rules. The underground man says, no thanks. He mocks the idea that humans are predictable, that we'll always choose what's best for us. Like 2 + 2 = 4. He's like, what if I want 2 + 2 to equal 5? What if I choose something dumb just because I can? It's not that he's crazy. He's saying freedom matters more than logic. We're not robots. We're human. And humans do irrational things because we feel, we dream, we rebel. This is Dostoevsky's big point. Reason can't capture the whole human experience. Sure, it's great for building bridges or balancing budgets, but it can't answer why we love, why we cry, why we chase things that don't make sense. The underground man's defiance, his refusal to be a cog in a rational machine, is Dostoevsky's way of saying our quirks, our passions, even our mistakes are what make us alive. Trying to squeeze us into a formula kills something essential. Now let's shift to Demons, where Dostoevsky takes this critique to a darker level. This novel's a chaotic portrait of a town torn apart by radicals who worship reason and materialism over everything else. Characters like Pyotr Verkovensky push a kind of hyper-rational ideology. Think early socialism or utopian schemes that says if we just reorganize society, get rid of old traditions like religion or family, and focus on progress, everyone will be happy. Sounds nice, right? But Dostoevsky shows where it leads: lies, betrayal, murder. The radicals' obsession with a perfect rational world makes them blind to human nature. They end up destroying lives, not saving them. It's like they're so focused on the future they forget the people in front of them. There's this chilling character, Stavrogin, who takes materialism to an extreme. He's got everything: looks, money, charm. But he's empty inside. He believes in nothing, not even himself, and it turns him into a kind of walking void. Dostoevsky's warning us, if you reduce life to just what you can see, touch, or calculate, money, power, stuff, you lose the soul. You lose meaning. And that's a dangerous place to be, for individuals and for society. This feels so relevant today. We're surrounded by systems trying to simplify life. Algorithms predict what we'll buy, watch, even think. Social media pushes us to measure our worth in likes, followers, or bank accounts. It's like we're told happiness is just a click away. Buy this, follow that, optimize your life. But how often does that leave us feeling empty? Dostoevsky would say we're chasing the wrong things. Life's not an equation to solve or a product to consume. It's a mystery to live. Our hearts, our dreams, our struggles can't be reduced to data points or dollar signs. Dostoevsky's own life backs this up. He faced plenty of material hardship, poverty, prison, debt. But he found meaning in faith, connection, and the messy beauty of being human. In Siberia, surrounded by criminals, he saw people who weren't irrational by society's standards, but were full of life, stories, regrets, hopes. That's what he's defending. The part of us that doesn't fit into a spreadsheet. The part that makes us more than machines. Think about a time you chased something rational, maybe a job for the money or a choice that looked good on paper, but it felt hollow. Or maybe you did something totally irrational, like falling in love or taking a risk, and it made you feel alive. Dostoevsky's saying that's where the real stuff happens, not in following the smart path, but in embracing the messy, unpredictable spark that makes you, you. He's not against reason or progress. He's against letting them erase our humanity. This also speaks to our world. We're tempted to let systems, tech, politics, trends think for us. It's easier, right? But Dostoevsky warns that when we outsource our choices, we risk losing ourselves. He'd probably look at our obsession with efficiency and say, slow down, feel, choose, be human. It's a call to protect that irrational, soulful part of us, even when the world says it's inefficient. As we wrap up, I want you to reflect. Where in your life are you letting formulas or things define you? Where could you lean into the messy human side instead? Dostoevsky challenges us to live bigger than reason, to embrace the chaos that makes us who we are. Next time, we'll explore another piece of his philosophy, love and sacrifice, where he shows how giving ourselves up can make us whole. It's going to be beautiful, so don't miss it. Greetings, philosophers. We're back for the 8th part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who doesn't just spin stories, but unearths the raw, beating pulse of what it means to be human. Today, we're exploring his philosophy of love and sacrifice, a theme that shines through his novels, The Idiot and The Brothers Karamazov. This is about love not as a fluffy feeling, but as a fierce, self-giving act that can change everything. So settle in, and let's get into this beautiful, challenging idea. Dostoevsky's world is full of passion, but he's not interested in Hollywood romance. His love is gritty, demanding, often painful. He believes true love isn't about what you get. It's about what you give, even when it costs you everything. For him, sacrifice is the heartbeat of love, the thing that makes it real, not just a fleeting emotion. This idea comes alive in his characters, who show us love's power to redeem, transform, and sometimes break us. Let's dive into two novels where this plays out in vivid human ways. First, let's look at The Idiot, where love and sacrifice are tangled in a messy, heartbreaking dance. Prince Mishkin, our gentle, almost saintly hero, loves Nastasia, a woman scarred by her past. His love isn't possessive or selfish. It's pure, almost otherworldly. He sees her soul, her pain, and wants to save her, not for himself, but for her own sake. There's a moment where he offers to marry her, knowing it might ruin his reputation because he believes in her worth. That's sacrifice, putting someone else's good above your own comfort. But Nastasia can't accept it. She's too broken, too caught in her own shame. Mishkin's love doesn't fix her, and that's the point. Dostoevsky's saying love isn't a magic wand. It's a choice to give, even when it doesn't work out the way you hope. Contrast that with Rogozhin, who also loves Nastasia, but his love is dark, consuming, obsessive. He's willing to sacrifice too, money, status, even his sanity. But it's not for her, it's for his need to possess her. His love turns destructive, leading to tragedy. Dostoevsky's showing us the difference between love that sacrifices for the other and love that sacrifices for the self. One builds, the other destroys. It's a gut check for us all. When we say we love someone, are we giving to them or just chasing what we want? Now let's turn to the brothers Karamazov, where love and sacrifice get even deeper. Alyosha, the young, faith-filled brother, embodies this idea. He loves people, not in a grand, showy way, but quietly, steadily, through action. There's a scene where he comforts a group of boys grieving their friend's death, turning their pain into a moment of connection. Alyosha sacrifices his time, his energy, his own comfort to be there for others, from strangers to his chaotic family. Dostoevsky's saying this kind of love, selfless, active, sacrificial, is what holds the world together. Then there's Sonia in Crime and Punishment. We met her before, but she's worth revisiting here. Sonia sacrifices everything, even her dignity, working as a prostitute to feed her family. When Raskolnikov confesses his crime to her, she doesn't turn away. She sacrifices her own peace to guide him toward redemption, following him to Siberia, offering love without judgment. Her cross necklace, which she shares with him, is a symbol of this: love that bears another's burden, even at great cost. Dostoevsky's showing us that love isn't just warm fuzzies, it's a willingness to suffer for someone else's sake. This idea hits hard because it's so countercultural, then and now. We're surrounded by messages that love is about feeling good, getting what you want. Think of dating apps or rom-coms. But Dostoevsky says real love is harder, deeper. It's about giving up your ego. It's not weakness, it's strength. He lived this himself. His years in prison taught him about love through small acts of kindness, like prisoners sharing bread. He saw that sacrifice, even in the darkest places, could spark light. Today, this feels more relevant than ever. We're in a world that's often about me first, my success, my comfort, my likes. Love gets reduced to a selfie or a status update. But Dostoevsky challenges us to rethink that. What if love means showing up when it's inconvenient, forgiving when it hurts, giving without expecting anything back? Think about the people you admire most. Chances are they're the ones who give, who sacrifice, who love in ways that cost them something. That's the kind of love Dostoevsky's talking about. Let's make it personal. Think about a time you loved someone in a way that asked something of you. Maybe staying up late to listen to a friend, or putting aside your pride to apologize. Or maybe someone loved you like that, giving when it wasn't easy. How did it feel? Dostoevsky would say those moments are where love lives. Not in the easy stuff, but in the sacrifice. It's what makes us human, what connects us, what gives life meaning. This also speaks to how we live together. Our world can feel divided, selfish, quick to judge. Dostoevsky's philosophy of love and sacrifice is a call to bridge that through small acts, like being patient with someone who's struggling, or big ones, like standing up for someone who's hurting. It's not about being a saint. It's about choosing to give, even when it's hard. That's love that transforms, not just the person receiving it, but the one giving it. As we wrap up, Dostoevsky leaves us with a challenge. Love, in a way, that costs you something. Sacrifice isn't loss. It's life. It's what makes love real, what makes us more than just our own desires. Next time we'll explore another piece of his philosophy, the search for authentic community, where he dreams of a world bound by love, not control. It's going to be powerful, so don't miss it. Greetings, philosophers. We're back for the 9th part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who doesn't just tell stories, but digs into the raw essence of what it means to be human. Today we're exploring his vision of authentic community, the kind of connection that binds us together not through force or rules, but through shared humanity and love. We'll focus on the brothers Karamazov and demons to see how Dostoevsky dreams of a better way to live together. So let's jump into this hopeful, urgent idea. Dostoevsky lived in a world of division, rich versus poor, tradition versus revolution, faith versus doubt. Sound familiar? He saw people pulling apart, chasing their own agendas, and he worried about what that meant for society. But he didn't just point fingers. He imagined a different way, a community where people are bound by mutual care, not control. For him, authentic community isn't about everyone thinking the same or following the same rules. It's about individuals choosing to connect, to take responsibility for each other, even when it's messy. This idea comes alive in his novels, where he contrasts true community with the destructive forces that tear it apart. Let's start with the brothers Karamazov, where Dostoevsky paints a picture of what authentic community could look like through Father Zosima, the wise monk we've met before. Zosima's monastery isn't just a place for prayer. It's a living example of people coming together in love and humility. He teaches that we're all responsible for one another, not just for our own actions, but for the world's pain and sins. There's this beautiful moment where he says, each of us is guilty before everyone, for everyone, and everything. It's a wild idea. Your choices, your kindness, your failures, they ripple out, affecting everyone. Zosima's community is built on this. People who choose to care, to forgive, to lift each other up, not because they're forced to, but because they see themselves in one another. Alyosha, Zosima's young disciple, lives this out. He's always there for people, his chaotic family, grieving kids, even strangers. There's a scene where he brings a group of boys together after a friend's death, turning their sorrow into a shared promise to remember and love. It's not about rules or power. It's about connection, freely chosen. Dostoevsky's saying this is what community should be. A web of relationships where people give to each other, not out of duty, but out of a sense of shared humanity. Now contrast that with Demons, where Dostoevsky shows what happens when community goes wrong. This novel's a dark portrait of a town unraveling under the spell of radicals like Pyotr Verkovensky, who push a collectivist vision, a society where everyone's forced to fit into a grand plan for progress. They promise equality and happiness, but it's all control. No heart. Their ideology crushes individuality, breeding mistrust, betrayal, and violence. Characters like Stavrogin, who's numb to any sense of connection, show what happens when community becomes a machine. People get chewed up. Dostoevsky's warning is clear. When you force people together under rigid ideas, you don't get harmony, you get chaos. This contrast feels so alive today. We're surrounded by forces pulling us apart. Politics, social media, endless debates about who's right or wrong. Some push for collectivism, like everyone should think the same to fix things. Others swing to extreme individualism, where it's every person for themselves. Dostoevsky would say, both miss the mark. Authentic community isn't about erasing differences or going it alone. It's about choosing to connect, to see each other as human, flaws and all. It's not a utopia. It's a daily choice to show up for one another. Dostoevsky's own life shaped this view. In a Siberian prison, he lived among outcasts, thieves, murderers, drunks, and saw glimpses of true community. Prisoners shared their last scraps of food, told stories, showed kindness in brutal conditions. That stuck with him. He believed even the worst of us could build something real together, not through laws or systems, but through love and mutual respect. It's a hope rooted in reality, not fantasy. Think about our world. We're more connected than ever. Phones, apps, instant messages, but often lonelier too. Scroll through your feed and it's easy to feel like you're shouting into a void. Dostoevsky would ask, are we building real connections, or just chasing likes and followers? His idea of community challenges us to go deeper, to listen to someone we disagree with, to help a neighbor, to forgive a friend. It's not about grand gestures. It's about small, intentional acts that weave us together. Let's make it personal. Think about a time you felt part of something real. A family, a group of friends, even a moment with strangers where you felt connected. What made it work? Probably not rules or agendas, but people choosing to care, to give, to be present. Now think about a time you felt alone in a crowd. What was missing? Dostoevsky would say it's that spark of mutual responsibility, the choice to see each other as more than just faces in a feed. This idea also speaks to our bigger challenges. We're in a time of division, political fights, culture wars, people digging into their corners. Dostoevsky's vision of community is a call to bridge that, not by forcing agreement, but by building relationships. It's about seeing the humanity in the person you don't understand, choosing connection over control. That's harder than it sounds, but it's also hopeful. It means we have the power to create something better, one choice at a time. As we wrap up, Dostoevsky leaves us with a challenge. Build authentic community, not through force or sameness, but through love and responsibility. It's not easy, but it's what makes us human. Next time, we'll close our series with his ultimate question, the eternal struggle for meaning, where he asks how we find purpose in a chaotic world. It's going to be a big one, so don't miss it. Greetings, philosophers. We're here for the final part of our 10-part series on the philosophy of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a writer who doesn't just tell stories, but dives into the deepest questions of what it means to be human. Today we're tackling his ultimate theme, the eternal struggle for meaning in a chaotic world. We'll focus on The Dream of a Ridiculous Man and the brothers Karamazov to explore how Dostoevsky finds hope in the mess of existence. So grab a cozy spot and let's dive into this profound, uplifting finale. Dostoevsky's world is no fairy tale. He lived through prison, loss, and a society teetering between faith and doubt, so he knew chaos firsthand. Yet he believed life could have purpose, not a neat, prepackaged meaning, but one we create through our choices, our love, our courage. His philosophy isn't about finding a perfect answer to life's big why. It's about embracing the struggle to make meaning, even when the world feels like it's falling apart. This idea shines in his stories, where characters grapple with despair, but keep reaching for something more. Let's start with The Dream of a Ridiculous Man, a short story that's like a concentrated shot of Dostoevsky's hope. The narrator's a nobody, a lonely guy who feels life is pointless. He's ready to give up, literally holding a gun to his head, when a dream changes everything. In it, he visits a perfect world, a paradise where people live in harmony, love, and joy. No greed, no hate, just pure connection. But then he corrupts it, bringing pride and division, and the utopia crumbles. When he wakes up, he's transformed, not because he found a magic fix, but because he saw what's possible. He realizes meaning comes from striving for that kind of world, even if it's flawed, even if we fail. He starts preaching love and kindness, not as a dreamer, but as someone who's seen the void and chosen hope. This story's small, but mighty. Dostoevsky's saying, meaning isn't something you find like a lost key. It's something you make. The ridiculous man doesn't wait for the world to change. He starts living differently, spreading compassion, knowing it's a long shot, but doing it anyway. It's a call to action. Even in a broken world, we can choose to live as if meaning matters. Now let's turn to the brothers Karamazov, where this struggle plays out on a grand scale. The novel's a rich tapestry of characters searching for purpose in their own ways. Ivan, the skeptic, wrestles with meaning through his head, rejecting a universe that allows suffering. His despair is real. Many of us have felt that, what's the point? Ache. But Dostoevsky doesn't leave us there. Through Alyosha, the young monk, he shows a different path. Alyosha finds meaning not in big answers, but in small acts, helping a grieving child, listening to a troubled soul. His faith isn't blind. It's a choice to love, to connect, to keep going despite the chaos. Father Zosima, Alyosha's mentor, takes this further. He teaches that meaning comes from seeing the world as interconnected, alive with possibility. He talks about loving all creation, people, nature, even the stars, and living with gratitude even when life hurts. There's a moment where he says that life is a gift, and our job is to cherish it, to make it beautiful through our actions. Dostoevsky's not preaching here. He's offering a vision of meaning that's grounded in how we live, not in abstract theories. This struggle for meaning feels so alive today. We're bombarded with noise, endless news, social media, crises that make the world feel like a mess. It's easy to slip into cynicism, to think nothing matters. Dostoevsky would recognize that. He saw it in his own time, with people chasing science, money, or power, hoping those would fill the void. But he believed meaning isn't out there in things or systems. It's in us, in our choices to care, to create, to love. His own life proves it. In a Siberian prison surrounded by despair, he found purpose in the small kindnesses of others, in faith, in the stubborn belief that life is worth living. What's powerful about Dostoevsky is how he balances the dark and the light. He doesn't sugarcoat the chaos, war, betrayal, loss are real, but he also doesn't let them win. In The Dream of a Ridiculous Man, the narrator sees both paradise and ruin, but chooses to live for the paradise. In The Brothers Karamazov, Alyosha faces a world of pain, but keeps building connections. Dostoevsky's saying the struggle for meaning is eternal, because life is never tidy. It's a constant choice to find purpose, even when it's hard. Think about a moment you felt lost, like life had no point. Maybe it was a dark day, or maybe it's now. What pulled you through? A friend's kindness? A small win? A belief in something bigger? Now think about a time you created meaning, maybe by helping someone, chasing a dream, or just choosing to show up. Dostoevsky would say that's where life happens. In those moments when you decide to make something matter, no matter how small. It's not about solving the universe, it's about living like it's worth solving. This speaks to our world too. We're in a time of division, distraction, and doubt. It's tempting to check out, to scroll past the chaos. But Dostoevsky challenges us to stay in the fight, not with anger, but with purpose. Build something, love someone, stand for something, even when it feels ridiculous. That's what the ridiculous man does, and it's what Alyosha lives. It's not about winning the struggle for meaning. It's about never giving up on it. As we close our series, Dostoevsky leaves us with a challenge. Embrace the chaos and make meaning anyway. Choose love, faith, connection. Not because they fix everything, but because they make life worth living. His philosophy isn't a rule book. It's an invitation to live fully, flaws and all, in a world that's both beautiful and broken. We've journeyed through his ideas: freedom, suffering, faith, guilt, love, community. And they all point to this: being human is a struggle, but it's a glorious one. Thanks for joining me in this series. Until next time, keep struggling, keep choosing, and keep making meaning. See you soon.